Good morning, St. Francis, and good morning, people of God. It is Thursday, the 29th day of February, 2024. It is Thursday of the second week of Lent. It is the 12th day of the Lenten season. Again, it is also, as I said, the 29th day of February, the magical day that happens only every 4 years. So enjoy today. Go and find a unicorn, because it is said that they come out on on leap year on the 29th day of February whenever it appears. However, they are incredibly elusive. So happy unicorn finding day, happy leap year day, happy 29th day of February. I also am still basking in the wonder and glory of my birthday, and as you can see, I got a new hat, a donut hat, because we had 680 donuts eaten yesterday during lunchtime, and you saw perhaps some of the video of that someplace. So this morning, coming to you from the front of the Catholic Center here at the Diocese of Raleigh. Blessed Mother is right over there. This is their Catholic Center. It's where my office is and everything else like that. So today's readings for this Thursday of the second week of Lent. Jeremiah. Again, all this week, God is asking us to consider what it means to be a part of God's life. And so Jeremiah poses the question, in whom do we trust? Good question. On our dollar bills and most of our coinage or whatever it is, it says we trust in God. But do we? And how do we? And what does it mean? What does it mean to trust in God? Well, Jeremiah basically says, for those who trust only, because sometimes, again, this trust in God is really just trust in ourselves with God kind of as a backdrop. And it's kind of a neat sort of thing, in one way. But it really doesn't do anything in the end. It does not really suffice to really give credibility, to that phrase of in God we trust. And so Jeremiah makes this great contrast of those who basically trust in themselves, who trust in humanity alone. It doesn't mean that we disdain humanity, but those who find basically no need for God and just trust in themselves are going to end up with nothing. And again, he compares it in a wonderful way to a dead bush in a barren desert. And that's kind of what it is, because we're finite human beings. We cannot accomplish everything that we think we set out to do. We are limited in our scope of things. We cannot judge well. And so we need God to help us create the best judgments and be able to create the best decisions we can for ourselves. Because then there is that praise of the person who trusts in God and never gives up on that trust, even when it seems it's difficult. And again, comparing that to a great tree planted by a river, whose roots, are stretched down into the earth, and who are anchored, in it because of their trust in God. And although there are winds and there may be droughts and there may be terrible calamities of weather and whatever it is, the tree stands because it is still anchored to something. It's important for us. Again, what does our trust in God do? It is supposed to anchor us. It's not supposed to make us into judgmental, cretins who destroy other people's lives, but it's supposed to allow us to withstand, what it is that life throws at us, and to be able to do so because we know that it is God who anchors us. And again, Jeremiah goes into talking about, the human heart and not being able to understand or measure the human heart, because again, it is so complex. But it is God who understands, and God knows the human heart because God created the human heart, and it is out of the human heart that trust for God emanates. So let us use our hearts, in the right way, and trust that God knows what God is doing, and that God continually cares for us, if we dare to put our trust in God. And sometimes even if we don't, God is still there to care. We just don't realize it. Contrast that or compare that, today with the gospel reading, which I think is from Luke. I keep forgetting. It might be Matthew. Anyway, it's the rich man and Lazarus. And the long and short of it is Lazarus is a very poor man, a destitute man, living at the door of a very rich man who is nameless. It is not Lazarus, the brother of Mary and Martha. It is not Lazarus who Jesus raises from the dead. It's just, again, this is a parable. And so it's just a guy. But the rich man lives a rich life. Lazarus lives a very poor and sad life. They both die. One goes to heaven, Lazarus. The other one goes to a place of unpleasantness, the rich man. It's not meaning that all rich people go to the place of unpleasantness, and because you have wealth or means, that's where you're going to end up. No, it's neglect. It's neglect and arrogance. The man never notices Lazarus. The rich man never notices Lazarus in his lifetime. But when he dies, all of a sudden he sees Lazarus in paradise and wants Lazarus to help him. Again, it's like, who are you and why would you do this? Again, this kind of act of arrogance and privilege kind of, entering in. But then, again, there is this whole thing where, the man then wants, Lazarus to go to his brothers, and kind of appear someone from the dead to warn them about their fate. It's kind of like a Christmas carol, but it's a bad thing because it isn't being done out of any kind of goodness or concern. It's being done out of self-preservation or family preservation, and that's not enough, for God, or for Abraham, who Lazarus is in his bosom and whatever. And even if somebody should be raised from the dead, it's not going to work. And that was kind of another shot at those people who didn't bother ever to listen to what it is that Jesus had to say in this lifetime, and continually would not listen after he was raised from the dead. It is the sense again of arrogance, of thinking that we have it all together, of trusting just in ourselves, in our wealth and in our power, in our influence, and in the end, what does it get us? Nothing. There is a whole big question of whether or not the rich man ever woke up and realized his mistakes and how badly he treated Lazarus. If he could jump from the great abyss that lied between where Lazarus was and the place of torment where the rich man was, that's never really answered. But the whole idea is the whole question that this raises is, where is our arrogance? Does it come because we only trust in ourselves, and or only trust in what we think we can do, or can it be eliminated? Can it be transformed by trusting God, and more trusting God, who cares always for us, who goes to great lengths to care for us, and again, who we are challenged to see at work in our lives. Continue blessed Lent, St. Francis and people of God. May the Lord give you his peace.